Welcome to AI on the Block, featuring Max Ledger and Allison Hashwell, presented by Evolve Blockchain.
Okay, so what if I told you the money in your pocket, the cash, or even the digital balance you see? What if it could soon come with an expiry date? Or maybe even tell you exactly where you're allowed to spend it?
Well, it sounds pretty out there, doesn't it? Almost like sci-fi.
Exactly, like something from a dystopian novel. But, looking through the articles and research you shared for this week's deep dive, one thing just kept jumping out. Central bank digital currencies, CBDCs.
That's right. And the material, it offers some really intriguing, sometimes frankly unsettling views on where your money might be heading and what that means for, your autonomy.
So that's our mission today then, right? Unpack what you found for us, figure out what these CBDCs actually are, why governments seem so, keen on them.
And crucially, explore the risks. The big ones our sources point to regarding privacy and financial freedom.
Okay, let's start right there, the basics. CBDCs. What are we actually defining here? Because I think for a lot of people it sounds a bit like crypto, Bitcoin maybe.
Yeah, it's easy to see why you'd think that, but the sources make a really key distinction.
Which is?
A CBDC is essentially, it's a digital form of a country's fiat money. So like the dollar, the euro, whatever. But, and this is the big but it's issued and regulated directly by the central bank.
Ah, okay. So digital cash, kind of, but government run.
Exactly. It's centralized. That's the absolute core difference from something like Bitcoin or Ethereum, which, run on decentralized networks. No single boss. CBDCs have a boss, the central bank.
Right, that centralization point feels huge. So why the push then? What's the official line? Why do central banks say we need this?
Well, the arguments they put forward are kind of varied. They talk about making payment systems more efficient, cheaper transactions maybe.
Okay, efficiency. Makes sense.
And enhancing financial inclusion. Trying to get folks who don't have bank accounts into the system. There's 1.7 billion unbanked globally. That's a lot.
Sure, that sounds like a worthy goal.
And then there's the PR angle, framing it as digital cash, trusted, state-backed, none of that wild crypto volatility. Plus, maybe talked about a bit less loudly, is using it to combat crime through traceability.
Traceability. Okay, I can see how that connects back to control. So the benefits sound plausible, but you mentioned unsettling perspectives earlier. Is this where things start to get complicated?
This is exactly where the tension lies, according to the sources you gave us. Those potential benefits are there, sure, but the flip side is this idea of enhanced digital control, which could lead to some, pretty concerning consequences for individuals. It's about more than just faster payments. It feels like a fundamental shift.
Okay, yeah, let's dive into that, because this control aspect, the potential surveillance, that's what really stood out as alarming in the materials. How could CBDCs actually enable that kind of monitoring?
Right. This is the crux of the privacy argument. CBDCs could potentially allow for just unprecedented state-level monitoring of every single transaction you make.
Every single one.
That's the potential, yeah. Unlike physical cash, which is pretty anonymous, right? You buy a coffee, nobody really needs to know. With the CBDC, every digital penny could be traceable back to you. That anonymity just evaporates.
Wow. Okay. Losing anonymous transactions, that's a massive change in itself. But then our sources mentioned programmable money. What does that mean? That sounds like another level entirely.
It really is. Programmable money means the CBDC itself could be coded with rules. Imagine getting funds that, say, expire after a month to force spending.
Whoa.
Or money that can only be spent on certain things like, groceries but not plane tickets. Or even money that only works in a specific city or region. That's called geofencing.
Geofencing, so they could literally lock your money to a location.
Potentially. Some sources even speculate about tying funds to, public health compliance or, dietary guidelines. It gives authorities this full visibility, almost like a backdoor directly into your finances for real-time oversight.
Okay, that paints a pretty stark picture. One source you highlighted really pushed this idea, calling it a potential complete control grid. They weren't just worried about CBDCs alone, were they? It was the combination with something else.
Exactly. The concern wasn't just the digital currency, but coupling it with a comprehensive digital ID system.
And what does that combination enable? What's the worry there?
Well, if you link every transaction via CBDC to a verified digital ID, suddenly everything digital could be connected. Your smart home, your electric car. One source even mentioned the idea of cars being stopped remotely. It creates this potential for a unified grid.
A grid where? What? Central bankers could make decisions usually left to politicians.
That's the fear expressed in some of the material, yeah. That it could allow central banks or other authorities to potentially exert control over fiscal policy, maybe even healthcare choices or social behavior, by simply having the technical means to, switch your money on or off based on certain rules.
That is a serious warning. Is any of this actually happening now, or is it all just theoretical what-if scenarios? Are countries testing these kinds of controls?
Well, it's moving beyond theory in some places. Look at China's digital yuan. They've run trials using geofencing, and there's discussion about linking it to social policies.
Okay, so China's doing it. Anyone else?
Nigeria launched the Naira, and then afterwards they imposed withdrawal limits. That caused a pretty big public backlash, seen by some as a kind of austerity tool.
Right, not exactly building trust.
And even the Digital Euro project, while they talk a lot about privacy, the design explicitly includes things like conditional payments and, crucially, centralized programmability. So the capability is being built in.
It really feels like there's this quiet war on cash happening alongside this push too, doesn't it? Making digital the only option.
That's the point raised, yes. If physical cash becomes harder to get or use, then people are nudged, or maybe eventually forced, onto the digital systems, where these controls can be more easily implemented, maybe even just via a software update down the line, overriding earlier promises.
Okay, so the picture painted by this centralized approach is, well, it's concerning. Highly efficient, maybe, but potentially invasive. Is there another way? Can we get digital currency benefits without this level of control? This is where blockchain comes back into the picture, right?
Absolutely, and that's a key counterpoint in the sources. They highlight decentralized blockchain platforms as a potential alternative. Things like Evolve blockchain are mentioned as specifically trying to tackle these risks.
How so? What makes a platform like that different?
Well, they offer things like immutable ledgers, meaning records can't be secretly changed in distributed trust. So no single point of failure or control, no central body that can just freeze your funds or change the rules unilaterally. Plus, enhanced security and this idea of programmable privacy.
Programmable privacy. Okay, unpack that. What does that mean in practice?
It means that instead of the system being designed for maximum surveillance by default, privacy is built in, and you, the user, get more control over who sees your data and when. It flips the default setting, basically.
Interesting. And what about Evolve blockchain specifically? What makes it stand out as a potential architecture, maybe even for something like a CBDC, but done differently?
Well, the sources point to its technical specs. It's apparently very fast and scalable, up to 100,000 transactions per second, which you need for, a whole country.
Right, scale is key.
And it has this unique feature. It's backed by physical gold reserves, which could offer stability. Plus, deflationary token burns, multi-layered security, a hybrid consensus mechanism. It all points towards distributing control and reducing those single points of failure we talked about.
So hypothetically, you could build a CBDC on a platform like that, one that's transparent, maybe gold-backed, stable, private by design. That sounds like a completely different proposition.
It really does. It suggests a path where you could have transparent monetary policy, a balance between privacy and necessary oversight, and maybe even decentralized governance involving more than just the central bank. It's a radically different model from the centralized one.
Are there other alternatives mentioned besides these big blockchain platforms?
Yeah, the sources also touch on things like private stablecoins or tokenized bank deposits, or even just actively preserving the choice to use physical cash, ensuring that ecosystem remains viable as a way to maintain anonymity and avoid total surveillance. The common thread is choice and decentralization.
This has been, wow, a really illuminating deep dive. It brings us back to that fundamental question, doesn't it, as we hurtle towards this fully digital future. How much control over our money and maybe even our lives are we, willing to trade for convenience?
It's a huge question. And it's not just about the tech, is it? It's about our basic freedoms. The move to digital money feels pretty much inevitable now, but how we do it. The choice between that centralized, potentially coercive model and these more decentralized, transparent, privacy-focused systems, that choice is critical. It's about the future of financial freedom, really.
Absolutely. Well, we definitely encourage you, the listener, to keep exploring this, question things, understand what's at stake as our financial world changes.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to join Max and Allison next episode as they dig deeper into the different facets of Evolve blockchain. This has been AI on the Block.